buds, welcome back to my channel, Sprouts with Joy. My name is Joy, and if you like to talk about plants, you're in the right place. Today I'm going to show you just about every houseplant in my entire collection, with the exception of my prop boxes and propagations, because I literally just made a video on those, and it would take entirely too long to add that on top of all the other plants, so yeah. We're just going to go room to room, and I'm going to try to not ramble with every single plant, because I have a tendency to do that. The way that I decorate things and my plant placement just change all the time. And obviously my plants are also growing. So I always find it fun to freeze my plants in time, so to speak, with these collection tours and give you a chance to see where my collection is at, see what I'm doing with my plants, that sort of thing. But all that being said, a lot of this is subject to change, and I'm not perfectly happy with the way that everything is, but we're getting there. It is a constant journey. Okay, the first plant is my Tenanthe Burley Marxii, and I know there are a few leaves that are dead that I need to remove, but it's also growing to replace those leaves, so oh my gosh, this is heavy. It's also growing to replace those leaves, replenish those leaves, so I'm really not concerned. The plant is perfectly healthy. If anything, the leaves that are dying off are just old, or maybe I missed a watering, and so it threw a little bit of a tantrum, but for the most part, honestly, this plant is incredibly easy. I feel like I talk about this plant a lot in terms of it being super low maintenance and that sort of thing, but yes, it is honestly such a gorgeous plant and an underrated plant. Right over here is my philodendron mame, and this has to be one of my top favorite plants in my collection. It has grown so well for me, and as you can see, it's a crawler. It is reaching the end of this pot, and I'm gonna have to figure out what the heck I'm gonna do. I don't know, I'm probably just gonna have to propagate it and kind of start it over, and I don't really know what I'm gonna do, but oh, look at that. Okay, sorry, this is a new leaf, and I just kind of helped it finish unfurling right there. Look at that. Oh my goodness. But yeah, this is just a gorgeous plant. I love the giant heart-shaped leaves, and they're pillowy and gorgeous and silvery. Right over here is my Calathea, or Gapertia ornata, technically. This was my first plant that I ever got that's in the Maranthiaceae family, and we've been through quite the journey together. We've had highs and lows. It's thrown tantrums for me. I need to cut off this leaf that is, you know, it's just crisped off. But these most recent two leaves that it has given me are to die for. Look at that. And then look at this one too. Oh, they're so gorgeous. And then over here is just a Monstera Adansonii. I also have some propagations that I want to add back into the pot so I can get like a much nicer, fuller plant. I've had a lot of iterations of this plant in the past, but this is what it's currently doing at the moment. This is my Monstera Peru. I recently potted in there a couple of propagations, so it'll have hopefully 2 new vines climbing up this pole. I'm honestly not a fan of this moss pole very much, but like it's still functioning okay-ish, so I'm just leaving it as it is. Yeah, this was one of my first kind of rarer plants. I mean, nowadays you can find it in big box stores, but I do really love the texture of the leaves still. I definitely need to dust them and give this plant a little bit more love, I think. Then over here is my Alocasia Black Velvet. Oh my gosh, I love this plant. It definitely is a little bit temperamental. Like if you miss a watering, it is not very forgiving at all. Like it will drop a leaf on a dime if you're not on top of things. That's happened to me a couple of times while I've been like on vacation, or if I get super busy at work and I just happen to miss a watering. But for the most part, I've been able to keep up with her, and she rewards you with just gorgeous leaves. They're so velvety. I love the backs of the leaves too that are more like reddish, purplish, like magenta colored. They're so good. This is the Alocasia that made me actually fall in love with Alocasias, because I wasn't really a fan prior to having this plant. All right, let's see if I can bring you all the way over here. Okay, so here's a shelf of different plants. This is a Philodendron Pink Princess, but I think I'm gonna give this one away because this has not been growing super well for me, and I've started a new plant going up an actual moss pole rather than just a wood piece, because as you can see, this is, you know, just wood, which I think would work really well in a super high humid environment, or if I were more diligent about keeping up with the maintenance of this plant. But it just like, it's It's not doing what I want it to be doing. So I'm just trying a different way of growing this plant. I'll skip over this because I went over this in my other video. But over here is a philodendron painted lady. I really love this plant. I really need to replenish the moss here so that it continues kind of growing into the moss. But this plant has rooted into the moss pole. I don't think that you can really tell, but trust me, it has rooted into the moss pole. I love the way that it's growing. It's just so sweet, isn't it? Like the way that the leaves are laying and the variegation too is honestly so good on the philodendron painted lady. And I guess up here, oh, why did you get tangled again? Girly, I literally just detangled her, but like, oh, that is the bane of string of hearts plants. This is my string of hearts silver glory. It's actually growing really, really well, especially since like there's a ton of new growth because I recently propagated it and it just started growing a lot from the places where I chopped it. It's been growing really nicely, which is so happy. And up here, I just have a little random air plant. I think it's Tillandsia bulbosa or something like that. It's still trucking along, which I'm very surprised by. I've managed to keep this thing alive for a pretty long time. Up here is just a Hoya carnosa crimson princess. I think that this was my first ever Hoya and she's grown pretty well for me. There is a little bit of new growth up here. You see that? It's kind of hard to tell. Again, I'm gonna be counting on some B-roll because this is not going to be the best filming ever. Okay, on this little shelf is a Syngonium confetti. And it has gotten super gangly, which if you've spent any time on my channel, you know this is a pet peeve of mine when Syngonium do this. So she's gonna be getting a chop real soon so that I can just kind of start her over and keep her nice and bushy. Alternatively, I might put her on like a trellis or something like that just to like hold all the leaves up, which is what I've done with my Syngonium elbow and that's worked pretty well. But like, I'm not totally feeling this. So stay tuned for a makeover for this plant. Up here on this shelf, here I'll bring it down. This is a philodendron heteroecium or heartleaf philodendron. I have 2 of these in my collection. This is just like the normal green version. And oh my word, do you see how long he is? And so beautiful and lush. I'm definitely gonna need to chop and prop this guy and like add it back into the pot to fill out the top a little bit more. I would love to do that. But as of right now, he just rests over here and cascades down like a beautiful leafy waterfall. Okay, we're circling back around down here. It's getting a little bit cramped. Wait a second. Oh no, guys, I think this is rotting. I spoke too soon. I was like, why did this come off? And look at that. That does not look like good news at all. Oh, look at this. That's so not good. Well, maybe it will be fine and it'll grow back, but I'm not gonna hold my breath about that because it just kind of came apart. Like, that doesn't look super good. Is that normal for air plants or does that mean it's totally dying? I know this was like a flower, but it's fine. If it grows back, good, but if it doesn't, we had a pretty good run. I feel like I had this going for like 6 months, 8 months. I feel like I got it last winter. I'll say I'm proud of that because it's my first ever air plant. Anyways, right here is a Hoya calistophylla. I very recently got this plant, maybe like a month ago or something like that. So it's brand new to my collection. We're still figuring each other out. She hasn't really given me any new growth yet, but that's okay because she was shipped to me and sometimes it just takes plants a hot minute. But like, look at how splashy she is and I love the venation. I really am enjoying this plant so far. Right here is a Syndapsis Platinum or Silver Hero. I think those are like 2 different names for it. I also very recently added this plant to my collection. It also hasn't given me any growth yet, but I'm hoping that it will sometime soon. But I just so admire how gorgeous these like all silver leaves are. Ugh, Syndapsis is such a good genus. And then right here is a Hoya chicken farm, which like, it kind of looks sickly, but I think that that's also just the vibe that it has. So let me know if this is normal or not. I hope that it is, but I don't know. It may have also just been really stressed from the shipping, but I'm hoping for the best. But look at how like trashy it looks. I love it. That's part of the appeal of like these kinds of Hoya, and the leaves are nice and big. And yeah, it just looks super scraggly and weird. and I really enjoy it so far as well. And down here is a Syngonium erythrophyllum. When I first got this plant, it was growing so well for me, but then we went through a period of time where it was shooting off a lot of runners, and I've chopped those up, and now it's giving me some new growth again. Like, do you see that? Those are new leaves right there. This is a new leaf. So like, I'm hoping that we're well on our way towards being better. But yeah, I mean, this plant was on my wish list for a really long time. I really admired it from afar. Now that I have it, I think we've had a few ups and downs, but it's like getting back on my good side again. So that's good. It is a beautiful plant. I love the red backs of the leaves. Oh, gorgeous. And down here, this is like a little bit embarrassing, but we're being honest. So I literally just bought a Tasmanian tree fern, and I showed you guys the Tasmanian tree fern, and I was like,
I got it for $5. We're just gonna try it out
because I love how fuzzy it is. But as you can see, it's like missing basically all of its fronds, and this frond is also dying off, which is so annoying. But okay, I did not miss any waterings. I don't really know what happened, because within a week, actually within like 3 days of me getting it, all of the fronds started crisping and just got worse and worse and worse. I kept up with the watering. I have a humidifier running in this room. I'm trying to keep it like relatively humid, but I think that it just got really shocked and did not like the transition to my house from the greenhouse. That's just the only way that I can explain it, because it was literally within a week. And normally if it's like your fault, technically, I feel like it's like a longer decline than that. Yeah, I hope that it grows back. I mean, I'm hoping that like it kind of dies back and then reemerges and grows. So I'll keep watering it, I'll keep taking care of it, and I'm really hoping that it will recover and be fine. But if it doesn't, it was $5, and maybe this wasn't the right fern for me to try. Okay, I know it's a little bit backlit over here, but we're gonna do our best to show these plants nicely. Okay, so this area is an area that I feel like is always and forever under construction. Or at least, I mean, this is not like the way that I want it to be. I tend to just kind of put plants here, and I intend to move them elsewhere eventually, basically, is the idea. My Anthurium podophyllum, and oh my gosh, this Anthurium is so cool. It's so unique, and so far it's honestly been really easy. It's generally an ambient humidity. Obviously I have a humidifier running right now, but it's not running all the time, and it only really runs like during the late fall through early spring. Most of spring, summer, fall, I do not have my humidifiers running, but basically once I start running my heater, I try to keep up with humidifiers. Some of it's for the plants, but it's also largely for me, because like the dry air kills me. So yeah, this plant is really cool. It's been pretty low maintenance. This is another Anthurium over here. It's a Anthurium vitarifolium. Obviously in the long run, I'm gonna want to have this like hanging and trailing down, but the leaves, I mean, they're pendant shaped and they're getting longer and longer. So this was the first leaf it gave me. This is the second leaf it gave me, which unfortunately there's a little rip. I was so sad when that happened, but that was totally my fault. I accidentally like crushed it with this thing as I like moved it back into place, and it got crushed, which kind of sucks, but it's okay. The leaves are so beautiful. They're like kind of a satin finish. Like they're not glossy per se, but they're also not velvety. Like I think the Polydiflorum is supposed to be a velvety version, kind of very similar to this. And this is more of like a matte satin finish, which is really nice. I've heard of some people struggling with this one. I have not so far, but I've only had it for maybe 4 months or something at this point. I got it over the summertime. So we'll see how it performs over the winter. I really hope it does well for me. Right here is a holiday cactus, which just started off as like one tiny little cutting, and now it has grown into this, which honestly, I mean, the growth does look a little bit skinny and scraggly, but we'll have to see if I can like get it to grow a little bit thicker and robust. I'll have to put on the screen if it's either a Thanksgiving cactus or a Christmas cactus. I think it's a Christmas cactus. But yeah, a friend of mine, when we did a plant trade, she threw this in, and this is like an heirloom plant, or at least it was a cutting off of an heirloom plant that she had in her family, which is the coolest thing ever. Ugh. I can't wait for it to like start blooming and stuff, you know, once it matures. Oh, and this over here is an Epipremnum pinnatum albovariegata. And I freaking love this plant so much. Again, I'm hoping the B-roll pulls through in terms of showing you all the variegation because it's pretty backlit. Like, look at these leaves. It's growing up this pole, and this plant is so good at like latching onto wood. Because look at that. You see how it's like rooting onto the wood right there? Isn't that the coolest thing? Oh my gosh, so I'm really excited for the leaves to continue really sizing up, especially as it sends roots out onto this wooden pole. I think it's the coolest ever. Down here is a little bit of a messy corner. I would love to someday get, I don't know, little stands or something to elevate the plants in the back, or at least like this plant right here. Because right now they're all kind of on the same level and I feel like it just doesn't look that great. But I do have a grow light right here and it has been a really nice auxiliary space to put my plants. I still need to cut these dang zip ties. I keep forgetting. But every time I film in here, I'm like, crap, the zip ties are dangling down and they look so bad. But yeah, in my everyday, I mean, they're clear, so I guess I just kind of see through them and don't notice them. But anyways, right here is a philodendron dark lord that I just put on this pole, and I mean, like, I literally just put it on this pole super recently, and I just stuck it down here as a place to kind of grow it, and it has some new growth already happening. I've had some heartbreak with this plant, and I just want it to grow well for me for once, so I'm really hoping that the moss pole pulls through for me. And this is actually the bottom cut of my philodendron dark lord, which I like to keep just in case it grows into something nice, and it already does have new growth happening. And so if this grows out nicely, great, I might keep it. I don't know, these are kind of in competition with each other. It's a question of, okay, which one am I gonna keep? Which one am I gonna like more? Right here is my Hoya Matilde, which I think was my first rare Hoya. It's obviously gotten a lot more affordable nowadays, which I think is wonderful, but that's kind of been the case with like a lot of plants lately. But it's super cute. I love it. It grows really well, it grows really fast. I've propagated it multiple times. Back here is my variegated Maranta Cutroviana, which I would love for this to be more variegated in the future. Like, it's not doing the best right now, but like there's a couple of nice leaves like right there. Do you see that? Come on, light. It's hard to tell. But yeah, I have to trim away some dead leaves, and I would love to propagate this plant and get it to be like bushier, fuller, that sort of thing in the long run. Like, that's my mission. But for now, this is what it is. Over here is a Monstera No ID, which, do you need a water? She's definitely thirsty, so I'm gonna water her after this. But yeah, I love that the leaves are a really satiny finish. It's super nice. This was sold to me as a Syngonium window leaf. And I think technically, I mean, maybe it's going to be known as a Monstera window leaf, but I don't know. It's definitely not a Syngonium. But I'm hoping that it will grow nicely for me. It tends to shoot off runners or have a lot of internal spacing, but it's fine. Okay, I better speed up because if I continue at this pace, this is going to take way too long. Then over here in this corner, this is not a permanent place for my Philodendron Splendid, but it's currently where he's at. But I really love this plant. I mean, I love all of my plants, but this is another one that has really been tickling my fancy recently. So like, there's a new leaf right there. And here's another new leaf right here. I feel like I just extended this pole, but it's going to need another pole extension really soon. But yeah, now that I'm getting a lot more into moss poles and that sort of thing, I need to figure out a better solution for where to put my plants that are in moss poles, especially as they get taller and taller and taller. So, I mean, stay tuned for that. Someday, I'm just gonna have to figure out a new location to put those plants. And over here is a Mandula pothos. This is one of two that I have in my collection. This one, I'm gonna try to have it climb a pole, a wooden pole. So far it has been growing very slowly, but it's also not in a super high light situation, so maybe I'll have to move it, but we'll see what it does. I would love to have it climb. Welcome to my bedroom, which is the home of my greenhouse cabinet. Right here is my Monstera deliciosa. It chills out here. It's super low maintenance. It could use a little bit of love and pampering, so I need to dust the leaves and such, but yeah, that's that. Right over here is my Maranta silver band, and yeah, she just lives over here on this plant stand, and she's just gorgeous. I have so much like trimming and plant pampering to do with a lot of these plants. I'm often really on top of it, but the last month or so, I've been just so swamped at work and with my kids, and our schedules have been crazy. So it's been a little bit harder to keep up with, but generally I try to keep up with them. Hi, buddy. My kitty decided to make an appearance. Okay, and over here, so these are a ton of plants I literally just got. The video that I just put out featured all these plants, and they're kind of in semi-quarantine right now, but these are all brand new plants. Like I literally just got them the other day. I have yet to actually choose where I'm gonna put them, but I'll just show them to you. This right here is an Alocasia Adora Variegata. And it has that like yellowish variegation. It's so beautiful. And she has a new leaf. Do you see that? Oh, that's so happy. So yeah, we're just going through these super quickly because I don't have time to dwell on every plant. This is my variegated Monstera Adansonii. Again, very brand new, fresh to my collection. And I'm still shocked that that I own this. Like absolutely shocked. It's so stunning. I hope it doesn't melt on me, but you know, fingers crossed, man. This right here is an Alocasia. I think it's like Macoriza or something like that, camouflage. It has some really unique and gorgeous modeling, and it also is coming out with a new leaf. I don't know if you can see that, but like, such a good plant. This is another Alocasia, and she's also putting out a new leaf. And this is my Alocasia Frydek. It is a variegated Alocasia, clearly. Look at that new leaf. Ugh! Freaking love this plant. It's so gorgeous. And again, absolute disbelief that it's in my collection. This right here is a philodendron white princess. And this one's particularly special because it has some pink variegation as well. Which if you didn't know that, I mean, sometimes these guys can throw out pink variegation, which is so fun. Like that is the most notable thing. And it's also coming out with a new leaf. I don't think that there's any pink on this new leaf, but I don't know. It's not totally unfurled, so we'll have to see. But yeah, this is a stunning plant. I do also have another philodendron white princess in the cabinet that I will show you. This right here is a jewel orchid or a Ludicea discolor, and I am obsessed with this plant. I've been wanting one for a really long time, and I think it's just the coolest thing ever. But please drop your care tips because I've never really cared for a plant like this before. Like I've had mini orchids and orchids here and there, but like nothing quite like this. Just look at how like shiny and velvety those leaves feel. Oh my gosh, I love the coloring. Ah, okay, and then the last one of this bunch is my philodendron ring of fire. Which, are you kidding me? I know these guys are getting more accessible, which is fantastic because I think everyone deserves to have one of these beauties if they want one. Look at that variegation. Holy moly, it's so beautiful. I love how like yellowy it is. Oh my gosh, look at that. Such a good plant. And again, I don't really have much experience with these plants yet, so there's not much to speak of there, but probably for the best because I cannot ramble about these plants. Over here in this corner are just some plants that I intend to give away, so I'm not really gonna touch on them, but they're like just propagations that have grown into full plants of plants that I already have. So I'm going to venture into the cabinet. I'm gonna remove my cat. Okay, now we're going to venture into the cabinet, which the lighting is very questionable. Hang on, I'm going to turn off like the big girl light. Okay, that's so much better. So let's open up the cabinet. Currently the humidity is at 78%, which it kind of ranges from like 70% to 85% typically. And by the way, this is a Redsta wide greenhouse cabinet, if you're wondering. I really, really like it. It has served me well. It's a little bit disorganized at the bottom right now, but like, it's okay. This is my Anthurium clarinervium, and this plant did rot on me. To be fair, it endured a lot of neglect while I was pregnant with my second child because I had really bad hyperemesis gravidarum, and if you don't know what that is, it just means I was throwing up like all day, every day. I was taking care of my plants as much as I could, but like physically, I just didn't, I could not keep up with everything as well in that time. I put her in moss, and she's since rooted up pretty nicely in there, so she's doing okay. But yeah, Anthurium clarinervium, I mean, it's pretty tough as far as Anthurium go, but like even she could not go through that. So eventually she just kind of rotted, and I was like, okay, let's rescue you, and she's doing great at this time. Over here is just my little baby philodendron serpens. I very recently got this, and I should probably repot it like out of terracotta because someone said they don't like to dry out super much. I mean, I guess you get the point. They don't like to dry out a whole lot. So I'll need to repot this potentially, but I've just been trying to keep up with the watering. This right here is my philodendron gigas. I also need to add more moss to this pole, and I need to extend this pole again already, which is absolutely insane. But it is a gorgeous, gorgeous plant. And I don't know what I'm gonna do when it has to leave the cabinet. I keep on saying that, but maybe it'll be fine. Who knows? Okay, but look at this newest leaf. Are you kidding me? This plant sizes up so nicely. I love the way that it lays, and it's coming out with a new leaf right here. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I need to add new moss. I need to extend the pole because it's at the top of the pole now. So yeah, I need to do that as soon as possible. Gosh. Okay, put you back in. This right here is a Hoya linearis, and it is the cutest ever. I just propagated it pretty recently, but it's been putting off so much new growth even after propagating it, and the propagations are almost ready to be added back into the pot. So I'm gonna have an even fuller linearis in the not too distant future. Right here is my Anthurium dark forgetii, and this is its newest leaf, and my oh my, is it just ever stunning. Oh my gosh, look at that new leaf. It's literally so gorgeous. I cannot with this plant. I love this plant so much. Like the leaf shape and the color is just so handsome. This is my Alocasia cuprea, which is not doing like the best ever. This leaf right here is dying off. At least it still kind of looks pretty. But I love the look of this plant. It's so cool. And I will say it is putting off a new leaf, it looks like. Down there. I don't know how well you can see that. So I think that that's why this one's dying, because it's doing that alocasia thing where it's like one leaf out, one leaf in. But I'm assuming we'll have to do that dance for a little while until its root system is a little bit more robust. Let's see, up here is my variegated string of hearts. And this one's also growing quite well for me. I also have propagations waiting to be potted up very, very soon. And I just think it's such a sweet plant. I think that this one is probably my favorite of all of like the string of hearts varieties, but that's also probably a fairly popular opinion. Right here is my second white princess, philodendron white princess. And for a while I was intending to like propagate this one, like trop and prop. I think I'm still going to. And look at these aerial roots, dude. Man, that's so awesome. Do you see the aerial roots? It's growing because of the high humidity, so hopefully that will make it very, very easy to propagate. I was intending to propagate this and then maybe like grow like the bottom cut up a moss pole to try to size up the leaves. But now I have like this other philodendron white princess that actually has like pink variegation, and I still like this plant. Maybe I'll still probably keep it around. Maybe I'll still chop it up. I don't know. I haven't totally decided like what I want to do, but I still enjoy this plant and appreciate it for what it is. Right here is an Anthurium hybrid. So this is, let me see if I can remember, Anthurium dark crystallinum crossed with papillanimum. This is a new leaf right here. Look at how gorgeous that is. I mean, it's still hardening off. It's still growing. Look at how shiny that is. And this is like the newest leaf before that one. I love the leaf shape on this one. It is so beautiful. Mwah. I'm honestly really obsessed. This is like one of my favorite Anthurium for sure. This right here is my philodendron verrucosum. Oh my gosh, this plant is so freaking gorgeous. I can't really handle it. Like, I just love it. I also need to add more moss to this. I'm like really behind on that with my moss poles, you guys. But these plants have been growing actually like incredibly fast. Like, I feel like I just added on to this pole maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, if that. I love the venation and the coloring of the verrucosum. And it's also like a little bit fuzzy too on the petioles, which is another feature that I really, really adore in philodendron. This one is a little bit more touchy than most of my other philodendrons, so it will probably stay in the cabinet for as long as humanly possible. This is a little fernleaf cactus. Oh my gosh, look at that new growth right there. That's brand new. So is this. This has been growing really, really well in the greenhouse cabinet. Like at first it was really rough, like it was not doing well at all. But yeah, I got this as like a tiny little plant, part of a plant trade, and it's been growing so nice. Again, for a while I was a little bit worried about it. It was not doing well after being shipped. And I do have another fernleaf cactus that is larger, but I'm gonna pot the two of them together pretty soon, I would say. Now we're going into the lower levels. Right here is my Anthurium crystallinum, which also has a gorgeous new leaf, and look at the color. I love the reddish margins that this plant has when it's an emergent leaf. But yeah, Anthurium crystallinum has been a really good grower for me. I just love it, love it, love it. Look at that. Ugh. It's such a good plant. And I know Anthurium crystallinum is also capable of getting those like really, really massive leaves. I know a lot of Anthurium technically are, but I've seen lots of people achieve big mature leaves with crystallinum, so that will definitely be a dream of mine. Right here is an Anthurium magnificum, which is relatively new to my collection, but it has a new leaf that is so sweet. Oh my goodness, I love it. Over here is an Anthurium seedling that is supposed to be an Anthurium dock block. I don't know specifically what kind. I got it off of Etsy, but I am not confident that it's actually a dock block based on the way that it's growing. So this is what it looks like. Usually dock blocks are characterized by having pretty like red emergent leaves, and this isn't really having that yet. And also like the leaf shape seems a little bit suspicious to me as well. So I don't know. I'm really hoping that it's actually what I purchased, but like there's a chance that it's not, and I've accepted that risk, I suppose, at this point. This is a Philodendron Florida Ghost, and this one's particularly fun because the aerial roots are kind of grabbing onto the petiole of another one of the leaves, which is really funny to me. But this one's really beautiful. It's growing really, really nicely. And I think in the long run, I want to pot this up with the mother plant to get a nice full plant. But this has been kind of an independent plant. It's a propagation off of my original Florida Ghost. Right here is a bit of a mouthful. It's an Anthurium hybrid, and it is a hybrid between the Crystallinum Endoriaki crossed with a luxurians, and as you can see, it has like that wonderful, delightful luxurians texture and the round leaf from the Doriaki. So I'm really excited to see how this one grows. It's super adorable, and I've grown this one for a while now. Oh my gosh, and it has a new leaf coming in. Do you see that? I hope you can see that. But yeah, I've grown this one from a tiny, tiny seedling, and it's starting to get more mature. These are both Philodendron Micans Velvet Halo. I got these from Botanicas very recently, so they're both very baby plants. Of course, I'm going to be potting these up together in the long run, but yeah, they're just variegated Micans basically. But they have a very specific leaf shape that is very fun. And yeah, they're adorable. Right here is Philodendron Atabapoense, and it's actually been rooting into this moss pole. Like pretty much all of my plants are on moss poles like this. They've been rooting into them really nicely, which is so happy. But yeah, so I kind of spontaneously put this one on a moss pole. Actually, I chopped up my Philodendron Atabapoense, like my original plant. I have a lot of Philodendron Atabapoense. I've potted some up, I'm gonna give some away. And I have kind of two plants right now that I'm, again, kind of like the Philodendron Dark Lord, they're competing. So I have this one, and I have this one. This was the original one that I was thinking that I would make like my new main plant, and I just put it on like a bamboo stake. But then I thought, you know, I really want to see how nicely it will grow if I like put it up a moss pole, just because I've had a lot of success with my moss poles recently. So that's where this one comes in. So yeah, I kind of have these two Atabapoense, and we'll see which one prevails, which one I prefer. Because I don't want to have like way too many duplicate plants in my collection long term. But for now, like it's okay to have for a little while, I think. Okay, right here is a Syngonium Strawberry Milk. And this one has been a little bit on a struggle bus for me. It's pretty much only maintained 3 leaves for the longest time, like as long as I've had it. But the variegation is adorable. It's very pale with like pink flecks. And I did recently repot it because I think it was just drying out too quickly, and maybe that's why it's doing this. Or like the leaves are dying off and it's one leaf in, one leaf out situation. Because the root system was actually quite robust, even though it's such a tiny plant. So I know it looks like this is way too big of a pot for such a small plant, but trust me, the root system is absolutely wild. Over here is a Monstera Sultipicana, And I do have one more of this, and I think I want to pot them together long term. I really have enjoyed the way that this one has grown, although the leaves are starting to size down a little bit, so maybe I need to put this up a pole or something so that it will continue to size up and like look nicer. There are roots coming out the bottom, so maybe I also need to address that. But anyway, then the last plant that's in the cabinet is this begonia aerial, which it has a lot of leaves that are dying off, but it's also putting off a lot of new growth at the same time. Like, look at the new growth. The new growth is so beautiful and fiery. But I think I would love to give this plant a makeover because I know begonia can grow, and it looks like it has kind of some growth points happening along the stem here, but I think I want to chop this up and put it in a terrarium. I think it would be much happier there with the consistent moisture. This is on top of the cabinet. This is a north-facing window. And I've got a grow light right here that's normally on, but for the sake of filming, I turned it off. This right here is just a Syndapsis pictus argyrius, and it is so long. Oh my gosh. It's like wrapped around this plant. It's pretty much scaling the length of this cabinet, and I like recently potted this up. Let me show you. Look at how gorgeous this is. It's so lush. See that? It's such a good plant. Yeah, I recently potted 2 of these plants together because I had 2 of them, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Actually, the second one was technically a propagation off of the mother plant that I had, but it had grown independently for a really long time. So I potted the 2 of them together. Right here is my Stramanthe Trio Star, which we've had a lot of ups and downs together, but now it's at a point where it's definitely really thriving. Like, it just is always putting off new growth, and it's so full and lush. Look at that variegation. It's so beautiful. Right here is my Huernia zebrina, which honestly has been so easy for me. It's been a great grower. It's super fun, and I can't wait for the day that this blooms for me. Like a little type of succulent, and it's so spiny and fun. This right here is, what's the name? Stapelia giganteum or something like that. I could be totally off. If I am, I will correct myself. But this is propagating right now. Actually, that reminds me, I need to water this and like keep the soil a little bit more moist. But I got this along with all of the other plants that are down here. The brand new plants that I literally just got. But this one was free because it had snapped off of the parent plant, and my friend that was touring me through the greenhouse, like, he works there, he was like, yeah, just take it. That's totally fine. I know, like, cacti and succulents can go a pretty long time. They can last a while, like being like dismembered. Whereas, you know, if you leave a cutting of like a philodendron or something out and about, like it's without any sort of moisture, it's not gonna last that long. But these guys, like cacti and succulents, they can last a while, like at least a few days, I think. So I'm really hoping that this guy actually roots, but I'm gonna set it aside. So I remember to water it because it's a little bit dry. This right here is my Alocasia dragon scale, and it's currently in a self-watering pot, which it has been really loving. So I gotta be careful because there's some water at the bottom of this. But yeah, this is a gorgeous plant. It does have a leaf that's dying off, but I'm pretty sure it's just doing its Alocasia thing. It's normal, like it just can't sustain too many leaves. This right here is a Hoya pubic calyx, and I'm gonna have to show you with B-roll. It shot off a runner and found a place to climb on my window, and so it's just like winding around, and yeah, I can't really move it, but it's definitely pretty fun. This right here is my Monstera Thai constellation, which, I mean, it's definitely a slow grower. It only has these 4 leaves right now, but this is its newest leaf, and I freaking love it. It's so gorgeous. But yeah, this thing roots like an absolute beast. It has roots that are coming out the top, which it did last time for a while. So I think in my last houseplant tour, it was doing the same thing. I don't know, maybe at the beginning of the summer or something like that. And it's already doing that same thing again, where the roots are coming out the top. So that must be just like a quirk that this plant has, but it's beautiful. Up here is my Philodendron mayoi, which is kind of hard to show you right now because it's trapped. I can't like super easily take it out to show you. So again, I'm gonna have to rely on some B-roll to give you some better look. This was like an unexpected purchase for me a while back, and it has honestly delivered. It has grown super, super well for me. This right here on my messy dresser is my Maranta crutoviana. She just chills here, super low maintenance, honestly. I love how big these leaves are, although these newer leaves aren't quite as big, so I don't know, maybe we'll address that sometime in the future. Over here in this back corner by the door, there's just this random built-in shelf. So I put my jade pothos here, and I mean, it's honestly growing pretty well. It's like growing all the way up this wall. It's very low maintenance. I hardly pay this plant any mind. I always tell myself I need to pay more attention to this thing, but at the same time, that's one of the benefits, I suppose, of this pothos. It's just, you can neglect it quite a lot and it'll still grow for you and be okay. So that's that. And then this is just a Tridescantia zebrina that's growing in water, and I need to add more water to it, and honestly I should do better at taking care of this as well. These are cuttings from my childhood backyard because my mom is in Florida. I grew up in South Florida. These were growing in my backyard for as long as I can remember. And then over here in this dark corner lies this philodendron Brazil, which is remarkably still growing pretty well. But yeah, I put this macrame hanger up here before I was as well versed in plants, but it feels so empty to not have a plant here. So it was a little bit dark because that's a west facing window, this is a north facing window, but it still is doing okay. Like, you can kind of get away with it with certain plants. I would say like this level of lighting, when the sun is setting and there's a ton of light pouring out of this west facing window, this does get like some medium indirect light, but like for only an hour a day. I do have a second philodendron Brazil, so I feel more okay about having that there. Okay, these are my plants that are on the landing here. This one is a little bit more askew than normal. This is my philodendron squamiferum, and ever since it got to about this height, this thing has been putting off inflorescence after inflorescence, so many flowers. And I mean, it's because it's so mature. I don't really have anything to pollinate it with. Otherwise, I would totally try pollinating and like hybridizing philodendron or something. This is probably like one of my biggest philodendron in my collection, and it is so, so beautiful. And I love the fuzzy petioles. They're so just, I love them a lot. This is my Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen, which I am truly obsessed with. I think it's such a good plant, and because it's so common, I think that it's pretty underrated. But some of the variegation that these leaves throw out, I mean, look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? Everyone should go get one of these if you don't have one already, because it's a super easy plant and it's really, really beautiful. This is my philodendron brantianum, which I would give the opposite advice for this one. I would say save your money, don't get yourself this plant. I mean, you can if you want to, but like, I've tried growing this in a variety of ways, and I've just kind of given up at this point to grow it well, because I don't know that there's anything that I can do to make it happy, because I've tried it in high humidity, I've tried it climbing, I've tried giving it more light, less light. I mean, I just don't know what it wants from me. Yeah, it's scraggly. I have had some appreciation for it in the past, but at this point, I might be ready to give it away soon or get rid of it, to be honest, because like, does anyone want this plant? I don't think so. It's gotten worse and worse the longer I've had it, and I've given it a good go, but I don't need that stress in my life. You can't really even see it in the frame. This is my staghorn fern, or Platycerium bifurcatum, and man, it is so backlit. Why did I choose to film this way? It's fine. I'll have B-roll. I'll have B-roll. It's drying out on some of the tips here and there, but for the most part, like, it's doing pretty well. And I didn't realize how much this plant had grown until I like looked at an old video, and I was like, oh, this plant's actually grown quite a bit. And like, look, this portion, I forget what it's called, but this portion of the plant is like all new growth, and there are some like new fronds over here too. So it's doing fairly well. But you definitely need to water this guy quite a lot, maybe twice a week. I try to keep up with it. Oh, and I think this is new growth too, down here. Oh, it's a really cool plant. I would love to get more Platycerium. They're like the only fern that I can do. I also have a handful of plants on this little windowsill, which I need to clean this windowsill actually, now that I'm looking at it. It's so dirty. This right here is a Hoya ring sand splash, and this is a pretty new plant to my collection, but it's very, very cute. I mean, I purchased it as like a starter plant, so it's itty bitty, but it is putting off a new leaf already, which is super fun. And this is another Hoya that was a starter plant I got in the same order, and it's a Hoya Shepherdii, which, it's so backlit, but Look at that. It's so cute, and it's also putting off a new leaf. And it looks like there's like 2 plants in there technically. I'm excited to watch that grow. And then this right here is an Enjoy Pothos, which I used to have a much bigger one, but I took propagations off of it. I like only took like the best nodes, the best leaves with like really nice variegation, and I gave away the mother plant. Okay, over here is one of my like main plant areas. I've got a pretty intense grow light up here, but I will say, so this is a piano that we got for free off of Facebook Marketplace, but it does not, like, it's not tuned, and it's never going to be perfectly tuned, because like when you tune it, it just goes out of tune almost right away. But all that to say, I think in the long run, we're probably gonna get rid of this piano in favor of getting something like a keyboard, or if we ever move and go to a bigger place, we'll get like a nicer keyboard or something like that. But once we get rid of this piano, I want to invest in a nicer plant setup, or like a plant shelf or something. This piano has charm to it. I love all the plants, like it's really fun, but at the same time, it's like not the most efficient way. Like at the moment, it's honestly just like a glorified plant stand. We'll have to see. I'm still kind of thinking on how I want to approach this area in the long run. But anyway, we'll continue. This right here is a Tenanthe Setosa Gray Star, specifically is the cultivar. And like my other Tenanthe, this one has honestly been really easy, really great to take care of. It's in a pretty low light situation because it only gets like a little bit of the light from the grow light that's up there, and the rest of this room, like over there, is north facing windows, which, like, if you didn't know, north facing windows don't provide a whole lot of light, but in spite of that, it still grows pretty consistently. And I've had a few struggles with having excessive extra floral nectaries, but like, it's okay. It's not too bad. Over here, okay, this is my Calathea or Gapertia Makoyana, and this plant is going absolutely crazy. It's so happy and honestly thriving, always growing. It's doing super, super well for me, which has not always been the case. I've had my fair share of struggles with this plant, but we have endured, we fought, we've emerged victorious, and I love it. This is my Maranta Leucanora Lemon Lime. So it, you know, it's like the green version of the Maranta. I also have the red one, but this is the green one, and it's growing so nicely. Look at all that new growth. Honestly, I love this plant so much. A Syndapsis Pictus Jade Satin, which this one has been a little bit of a slower grower for me, but like right here is a new leaf. I did grow this from scratch, basically. I got 2 cuttings for $1 or $1 a piece or something like that at a plant shop, and I think that that was a really good deal because I've grown it into a plant. Like, this is an actual plant now, which is super, super fun. And yeah, I love that the leaves are just like a matte green. It's a very elegant and understated plant, I think. I know the lighting is gonna be not as ideal. Should I turn off the light? I might do that again because it's so harsh, you know? Is that any better? Now it might be like a little too dark, but. So this is my Philodendron Summer Glory. This is like one very happy leaf. This is, I think, the most recent leaf, and you can kind of see the coloration. This is a cross between a Gloriosum and a Macaulay's hybrid or something like that. So it has like a beautiful like pinkish rose gold coloration to it when the new leaves emerge, and then they harden off to more of this green color. I loved it from the second I laid my eyes on it, and I still love it today. I'm growing it as a crawler, but I think you can probably grow it in a few different ways depending on what plant you have. I think there's like some variations within the cultivar. This right here is a Philodendron Florida Ghost, and I have propagated this plant kind of a lot. And so I have a lot of propagations of it lying around, and I intend to fill out the pot a little bit because right now I only have this one single vine growing. And this is a new leaf too that is that gorgeous ghostly white that fades down to green. But yeah, I only have like one vine, one plant in here. I would like to remedy that. Back here is Syngonium albo. Let me see. I'm gonna also grab this to show you. It's a little bit unstable, but yeah, this is my Syngonium albo, and this was one of my first rare plants in my collection. Nowadays, it's actually considered probably quite common by comparison. You can get it for very affordable prices. I still really love this plant a lot, honestly. Here's like what the top portion of the plant looks like. They're all facing up because that's where the grow light is. But yeah, there's some really, really gorgeously variegated leaves in here. Let me show you. And normally, so a lot of like Syngonium podophyllum varieties I've kind of fallen out of love with. There's some new growth here too. I realized I don't really like growing Syngonium podophyllum all that much, but I would say that Syngonium albo is still the exception because even though like it's a little bit scraggly, I have put it up this plank, which I think has helped a lot. Just the presentation of the plant and the variegation is almost unmatched. Like this is one of my favorite variegated plants out there because it is just so absolutely stunning. This is my Begonia maculata whitei, but what the heck? Did I miss a watering? Okay, that's really bad. This plant is apparently unhappy with me because it's dropping a bunch of leaves and it's fairly unwell, which is very unusual for this plant. I checked on this plant like 2 days ago and it was totally fine, and now it's just dropping leaves. That makes me really sad because historically this plant and I have gotten along really, really well, but something is amiss. Like it's not liking something. Maybe, did I let it dry out? Okay, I think it needs to be repotted, because that soil is like really compact. You live and you learn, which again, that makes me sad because generally speaking, I get along really, really well with this plant and we had like a super intuitive thing going on. But I do have, I mean, if this one declines, I have like 1,000,001 propagations of this plant still lying around. I'm gonna set it aside and so I can deal with that. Right here is more Monstera siltepecana, and again, I intend to pot this one up with my other Monstera siltepecana. I am undecided as to how I want to grow it, but like it's a little bit scraggly at the moment, which I'm not super fond of, but that's okay. Okay, I've got 2 philodendron silver swords right here. All these propagations have come from the same exact plant, actually. So I decided to grow some just like in a pot without like any sort of support, just to experiment and see what would happen. I'm not that big of a fan of it. Like I think that some people might like it, but like it's not doing it for me. It feels a little bit too unruly. This is the one that I just potted up and put on a moss pole. I actually need to water this again already. I have high hopes for this one, but I like just put it on a pole. I really hope that this one grows well for me and that I will have, again, the silver sword of my dreams. And this right here is a philodendron heteroecium that is variegated. So I guess variegated philodendron heteroecium. It is so, so cute. I love how subtle the variegation is on this. It's like when you look from afar, it's like,
Oh, you know, that's a cute little green plant.
and then you look up close and you're like,
Oh my gosh.
that is really, really, really cute. I've had a journey with this plant. It almost perished because of an accident from one of my friends. Basically, he knocked the pot down, but I propagated it. Now here we are. It sounds like my son has woken up from his slumber. So I'm gonna have to take a quick break. Okay, we're back. And I realized that this video is also just a series of me sitting in strange places and strange positions. So I'm sitting on the edge of my couch right now, and this humidifier is blowing directly into my eye. This is a Gapertia insignis, or Calathea rattlesnake is what it's more commonly known as. For the longest time, it was not growing well for me, and I was like, what the heck? Why are you not growing well? This is so dumb. And then I realized that it was entirely root bound. So I repotted it, and since then it's put out a lot, and I mean a lot of new growth points, and just like new leaves are shooting up. So I have like I think I have like 6 or 7 new leaves on the way. So that's pretty cool. This right here is my Ficus elastica temeki, and it's such a gorgeous plant. It spent just about all summer outside. So down here, it's a little bit more of like a trunk-like. Oh, what's the term again? Is it corking? I think that that's the term. The stem gets like a little bit more rough and like brown and that sort of thing. It's just kind of creating bark in a sense, or like a trunk. Not like a formal tree, but I mean kind of, because ficus they are trees. This is a ton of new growth from over the summertime. This right here is my Philodendron camposportuanum. The most recent leaves are a little bit funky, but these leaves down here are quite nice. I got this as a cutting from a friend in a trade. It has grown very, very quickly. So what I would love to do is actually chop this up node by node, and actually look at those aerial roots already. So that will be really ripe for chopping. Yes, Alphonse. But yeah, I'd love to propagate it and then just create like a really full plant and get it climbing up some sort of a pole. And then this right here is my philodendron pink princess, or at least it's another one that I also just put on a pole like last week along with the silver sword. And I mean, I don't have much to say other than I really hope that this works because like, look, this has like some really nice variegation in here and I really want that to continue. I just want to have a pink princess that has nice big leaves and like decent variegation. I mean, isn't that what everyone wants? Up here I have an array of plants over by this little west facing window. So this right here, actually, I'm like standing up on the couch right now. This is just a Synapsis Trubii Moonlight, which I've had for quite a long time, but it has not grown super quickly for me. It keeps putting out runners, which tells me that it's not content about its environment. I have tried like moving it around here and there and whatever, but I think that it actually just wants to climb or have more light. This right here is my Hoya obovata, which I recently potted together with propagations I took. Honestly, it's looking so nice and it's on its way to be a nice, beautiful, full plant. And this right here is like my normal string of hearts, my standard like Ceropegia woodii, and it's growing pretty well right now, I would say. Miraculously, my cats have not really been bothering it, which I totally expected them to like totally knock it down by now, but let's see. I'm gonna go down over here. Now I'm standing on a chest. I'm not this tall. This is a philodendron fuzzy petiole. It has seen better days, but I've taken some cuttings off of it. I'm propagating it in the hopes that I will start a brand new plant going up a moss pole, and I'll probably end up giving away this one to someone else because like I'm just not a big fan of the way that it's growing and I'm kind of just done with it. Over here in the other corner by the TV, okay, isn't this little sleeping cat just the cutest little happy thing you've seen? Okay, this is my Aglaonema Maria. This is actually the only Aglaonema in my collection, which I think really needs to be remedied, okay? Because like that's not okay. I would love to have more Aglaonema. It's growing pretty decently well, and yeah, I love her. This is my Marble Queen Pothos, which as of right now, she's but a shadow of what she once was. I used to have a really, really big pot, but I ended up splitting up the pot because I wanted to grow it differently. And then I had a bigger pot that was like trailing down a little bit, which was wonderful. But my cats knocked it down while we were out of town. And when I came back, only this much of the plant was salvageable. That was kind of sad, but at least we salvaged some of it. And she's growing well, albeit a little bit slowly because I feel like Marble Queen Pothos, because they're so variegated, sometimes grow a little bit more slowly. And then over here in this happy little corner, I'm gonna have to get on the couch again. Over here in this happy little corner, I have my full-sized fernleaf cactus that I referred to earlier in this video. She's doing so well in this window. Again, this is another west-facing window, and she's so happy. She's growing. She's beautiful. Like there's not much else I can ask for, and I feel like this is the perfect spot for her. And then this right here is a Tradescantia chrysophylla, which has thrived despite my neglect, but I will say she has seen better days. I need to prune her, actually. There was a moment during the summertime when she was like on fire, doing so well. There's a lot of like dead vines on this that I need to take off, but it's still growing in spite of that, so like I'm not too worried about it. This has been a very robust plant, again, in spite of my neglect. You like that? Welcome to my dining room. I guess I'll start in this corner. This is another Monstera deliciosa. I've got 2 of them. I love them both. I used to have 3, but I gave the 3rd one away. They get big, and as beautiful as they are, I couldn't do it. But yeah, this one right here is just absolutely gorgeous. I love the way that it fills up the space. Right here is my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, and I mean, this is one of the most like aesthetically pleasing plants in my collection in terms of how it looks in the space. I mean, it's so cool the way that it climbs up the wall, and every time I get visitors, people are commenting on it. Right here is my second Mandula pothos. The last one that I was showing you was climbing up a pole, but this one right here is like my normal one that I just have I mean, trailing would be an overstatement. It's not actually trailing right now, but like maybe someday it will. But this, in my experience, has actually been a very slow grower as far as pothos go. And this right here is my Syndapsis Pictus Silvery Ann. And this one, I mean, some of the variegation is a bit to be desired. Silvery Ann can often have like, so the defining factor of Silvery Ann is that the splashiness is concentrated towards the middle, and there can be a lot of splashiness in terms of like the silver. But this one like doesn't really have a whole lot going on. So I'm hoping that someday the variegation on this guy really ramps up and gets much splashier. But as of right now, I mean, there's like a handful of fairly pretty leaves, but like not a whole lot. Moving along right here. This right here is where a lot of my Hoya live, because these are south-facing windows and they just absolutely love it. But that also means that it's very, very backlit. I feel like this is probably my best bet. Okay, this one, the first one in the lineup, is my Hoya Carnosa compacta. And historically, I've struggled a lot with the Carnosa compacta varieties, of which, I mean, I only have 2. But this one is finally growing really, really well for me. I think it might need to be watered soon, actually. Look, it has new growth happening, and like it's actually kind of thriving a little bit for once, which makes me so, so pleased. Right here is my Hoya Ficii, and this I got is just like a totally baby plant, but it has started to grow into like being more of like a plant. I mean, it's still pretty small, but when I got it, it only had like 4 leaves. So I'd say that this is quite the accomplishment, and I adore the venation on this guy. It's honestly such a gorgeous, gorgeous Hoya. Is my Hoya Australis Lisa, which also needs to be watered. Add it to the list, I guess. But yeah, this variegation on this plant is really beautiful. I know this plant used to be like a hot commodity when I first started collecting houseplants, but by the time I actually purchased this one, it was only about $12. So I would say that's a pretty good price for a plant of this size. I'd say it's probably pretty underrated nowadays, but like honestly, like it is still really, really gorgeous. This is my Hoya elliptica. I don't know if I have like a whole lot to say about this plant. I mean, it's grown like very medium for me. Like it hasn't been a super strong grower, but it hasn't been like a particularly weak grower either. It took a while to recover after shipping, I will say, because I got it back in December of last year. So it's almost been an entire year since I've had this plant, and it has not been super robust in terms of its growth. But I think that's because it took a while to recover from shipping during the winter time. But now I would say it's quite stable, and I love, again, the venation on the leaves, and the leaf shape is really, really pretty. Okay, this plant right here, I am so freaking happy about, you guys. This is my Hoya Carnosa compacta variegata. Hey, what are you doing, bub? This cat is snipping the camera. I've struggled with this plant for, I think like a 1.5 or 2 years, guys. Like literally, this plant has been a struggle bus for me, but we are finally getting to a point where I'm actually really happy with it, because look at this. Look at this newest leaf that it just gave me. It is hot pink, folks, and it's actually like growing for me. It has new growth points. It's putting out leaves pretty consistently. At least, I mean, it's growing a lot faster than it ever has, so I'm very, very pleased with that. Over here, we've got my terrarium, which I recently opened it up and I took some cuttings, and I intend to give them away to friends because this thing is so absolutely overgrown, you guys, but it's really fun at the same time. It's got some Selaginella wildenowii in here. That's like the mass of green leaves that you see. And in the sunlight, it is super iridescent, so like it becomes more bluish, which is super fun. I also have a random begonia. I don't know the specific species, but it's just a begonia species. And I have a string of turtles, or Peperomia prostrata, in here, and that one's also going a little bit crazy. So it's a fun little cute terrarium, and I really love the idea of putting it in a macrame hanger. I'm actually really pleased with myself that I thought of that, because it really loves hanging out up here. Okay, we're getting further along this side. This right here is my Hoya polynera, or fishtail Hoya, and this one has also been just an incredibly good and consistent grower for me. It even has some like splashiness to the leaves, which is really, really fun. And it's putting out new growth as always, which again, super happy. So I love the leaf shape. I love the venation. I love its growth pattern and the way that it even like lays in the macrame hanger. Ugh, I'm excited for this to continue just growing and growing and growing. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is my most prolific Hoya by far. This is my Hoya lacunosa super silver, although some portions of it are a little bit more on the green side, like over here. But most of it is like very, very silver, as you can see, which is super fun. But yeah, this Hoya grows so fast, so constantly. I've had it for, I don't even know, maybe a year and a half or 2 years. I think a year and a half. And when I first got it, it was tiny. And now it's this. It even has some blooms right now, which I'm so happy to catch it during a time when it's in bloom, and the blooms smell so sweet and gorgeous. I just love them. Ah, it tickles my heart. But I feel like it has a bloom going, like at least one bloom going pretty much all the time. At least it has done that pretty much like all summer long and even into the fall season, which is really fun. We'll see how long it keeps that up, but I'm really proud of it. It's definitely gonna need a repot soon, I'm assuming, but I'm not really gonna touch it until it like stops growing and throws a temper tantrum because it's root bound. Like there's a good thing going. I don't want to interrupt that. This is my Hoya villosa, and as far as Hoya go, this one's a little bit slower of a grower. I think I've had this one for maybe a year at this point. But despite the fact that it's a slower grower, I do love the leaf shape, and it is putting out new growth right now. And I think that's because the south-facing window has much more aggressive light this time of year. So in the fall and in the winter and even in the spring a little bit, since the sun is lower in the sky, it gets head-on light. I mean, right now you can see like there's a lot of light coming through this window. Yeah, I think it's liking that, but we'll see. It also has like a growth point over here that's not really doing anything yet, but we'll have to see. I'm gonna have to move this high chair. This right here is my philodendron green Congo, and it's putting out a new leaf, which is very happy, very good. But the rest of it is looking so absolutely rough. I have a 3-year-old daughter, or almost 3-year-old. She's turning 3 in December. My kids don't normally touch my plants, but occasionally they target a plant, and this has been her target recently. Like, look at these leaves. Like, there's so many rips in these poor leaves. It makes me a little bit sad. It's only been like a couple of times I've caught her ripping at the leaves, and the main thing that she's doing is she's like tearing pieces of the leaf off and feeding the leaves to her toys. I try to give her like lettuce or something instead. In her mind, she's trying to provide for her toys, I guess, which is super cute, but like less cute when she's ripping it off of your houseplants. And then down here is a Sansevieria sayuri. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all Sansevieria have been reclassified to Dracaena, so I think it's technically Dracaena trifasciata sayuri, I guess. Okay, this has been like the best growing Sansevieria I've ever had in my collection. Like, look, that's new growth. This is new growth. Literally, like, this is new growth. There's so much new growth all over this plant. It looks so good. And I'm not normally a fan of Sansevieria, but this one in particular has been really, really good for me. This right here is my Maranta leuconura erythronera. So it's like the red Maranta, basically. This one's in really low light. Even so, it's still been growing, which is great. It's been in this for at least like a year now. Like, it's been right here, and it's still been growing pretty decently well. I actually like just repotted it into this pot right here because it had been drying out way too much because it was super root bound. But yeah, it's still growing, even though I've talked about this a few times on my channel. But when you have this plant in lower light, like, you can get away with it, but the leaves aren't going to be quite as bold and vibrant. So like right here is a leaf that was put out in lower light. Right here was a leaf that was put out in higher light when I used to have it in high light. Like, look over here. See this like super early leaf? Oh my goodness. Yeah, this leaf has been around for like a whole year. There's not very many of those left, unfortunately. Yeah, maybe I'll put this in highlight again someday. Okay, I have a few random plants in this corner. I'm not going to talk about the propagations because, again, I already talked about all of those. These are just a couple of Phalaenopsis amabilis mini orchids or whatever. They're not looking super great right now because they are devoid of blooms, except for this one. This has one little bloom and one little bud left. Over here in this corner is my lovely Scindapsus pictus exotica, which has grown so beautifully well for me. This is like where most of the toys lie, so I'm sorry it's not super aesthetically pleasing or anything. Again, I have 2 toddlers, so like, yeah. Actually, oh, I also need to water this guy. But look, she's so long. I can barely even like really fit her into frame fully. But yeah, she's doing great. Trucking along really, really nicely. This plant, I mean, I just have no complaints. She's just grown super, super well. Okay, this right here is the last little corner. Right here is my philodendron micans, which will always and forever be a favorite of mine. Like, you can't go wrong with a micans. It's super easy, velvety, heart-shaped leaves, and it's so good. It's so good. And the coloring of it, oh, just perfection. This right here is my second philodendron Brazil. I showed you my first one. Well, actually, this is the first one. The one up in my bedroom was technically the second one that I got. This one is also just a really good grower. Like, I have no complaints. Ooh, look at one of these new leaves that just came out. Isn't that so pretty? That's really nice variegation on there. But yeah, this is definitely like a go-to plant of mine to propagate and give away to friends that are beginner plant parents. And then over here in this corner is another philodendron heteroecium. This one I put here to kind of fill in as a green space in a low light situation, because these guys just survive. They truck along even when they're in low light, which is really nice. The leaves will grow a little bit smaller in my experience if they're in lower light, but like if you don't care that much about that, like if you just want a plant to look nice in a dark corner, this is a very good go-to. This right here is a Sansevieria, or I know Dracaena technically, but Moonshine? Is it Moonshine or Moonlight? Editing me will double check. But this one is quite fun. It's a little bit darker than it normally would be because it is in pretty low light. And it has not grown super, super well for me. And snake plants, I mean, they're tough. They will survive through so much, and they will survive in low light corners, but they're not gonna like thrive for you in low light corners. So I have consciously chosen to put this in a low light corner, knowing that it's just gonna be more like a sculptural art piece. This right here is a philodendron heteroecium lemon lime. I mean, it's very much like that one right there, except it's more like a neon color. This one, again, because it's in a lower light corner, it's not growing in any super impressive way, but it is a happy pop. Oh gosh. This little thing was sitting here, and it's supposed to be a pig. It's just a little pig that my daughter left there because she was playing, and why did that scare me? I felt like that this was like a caterpillar or something. Like, it kind of has woolly bear vibes, or like, I don't know, it looked weird just sitting here. I was not expecting it, and that just spooked the heck out of me. Oh my gosh. This right here, down here, is Cebu Blue Pothos, or Epipremnum pinnatum Cebu Blue. I mean, it's doing fine. I actually just recently added another cutting to the pot. Again, to reiterate, it's a lower light little corner right there. When the sun sets, sometimes it'll get like just a beam of sunlight right here for maybe 30 minutes. So like it's enough to kind of sustain them, but like it's really not super consistent. So yeah, these guys live, they survive, but they don't grow super quickly, which again, I've kind of just accepted, that's fine. But I have always thought about like moving this to a different location to see if it would grow better, which I mean, it absolutely, I'm sure it totally would grow a lot nicer and be really long and lush. So maybe one of these days I'll like switch this plant out with another plant and see what happens. But like, for now, that's that. Oh, and I nearly forgot. This is my Gapertia zebrina, which is one of my absolute favorite Gapertias because just the leaves are like velvety and so, so beautiful. And look at the new growth happening. Oh my gosh, this plant, I mean, I've been through like ups and downs with it a little bit, but I would say we're currently trending up right now. Like, it's actually quite happy with me, which makes me quite pleased. Welcome to my kitchen. I know there's a lot of plants right here, but I'm not gonna really talk about any of them because these are all duplicates. These are all propagations off of my own plants. I intend to give the vast majority of these away, if not all of them. I actually have people in mind and like people who specifically want these plants. So like they're not technically in my collection even though they're here right now. But we can start over here. We'll start with this one. This is my philodendron Jose Bueno, and it is not a Jose Bueno that has a lot of variegation, if at all. Like it has a very, very, very itty bitty, let's see, are there any leaves? Like this first leaf had a little bit. Yeah, I'm not really seeing much variegation on any of the other leaves. I don't know if it's like reverted or if they even do technically revert or not, but like I bought it knowing it wasn't very high variegation, but I was hoping that the variegation would come back around. It has not, which is a bummer, but like it's still been growing really well for me. And like the leaves are quite beautiful. So this isn't really like the permanent home for it, but I brought it inside after the summer and I just stuck it right here as a place to put it. This right here is my rickrack cactus, which is one of my favorites. It's so fun and funky. It's a really good grower. It's ridiculously easy to take care of. It's always putting out new growth, and I feel like it tends to put out the most new growth over like the winter time because as you can see, there's so much new growth just like spitting out one after the other. So yeah, it's a really, really fun plant, and I think everyone should have one if you're a fan of good jungle cactus. And then back here, so this is just like an opuntia or a prickly pear cactus. This is like a propagation technically, and I think that it rooted because it seems like it's alive, but the mother plant, this like fell off of the mother plant. It got like knocked off. So I need to take this downstairs to the basement because I have two other cacti that I have in the basement and I'm overwintering them there. I'm kind of playing around with overwintering, and so I probably need to take this down with the rest of them. And I think the overwintering is meant to like encourage dormancy in your cactus so that, you know, it'll stop growing over the winter, but then once it's ready to come back outside, or at least be like in pretty much full sun, it will like come out with better, more robust growth. This right here is a Euphorbia lactea, or Euphorbia white ghost. I have this stake here to try to encourage it, coax it up more because it's leaning over in an awkward way. But I got it pretty recently. I haven't noticed a ton of new growth on it like at all, but I hope that it grows because I really like this plant and I think it's beautiful. But I might just need to give it more intense light, honestly. Like it's by a south facing window, but like maybe it needs a grow light. I don't know. I've got a few more plants in this corner. So this over here is my Calathea yellow fusion, and kind of similar to the Jose Bueno, I just kind of stuck it here as a place to put it because I needed to bring it inside. This was outside all summer, of course, and like I do that with this plant every single summer because it just explodes with growth and gets so happy when it's outside. But of course it does get like a little bit scraggly when it's outside too because it's, you know, exposed to the elements. Yeah, when I bring it in for the winter, it doesn't do quite as well. And that's okay. This right here is my Syngonium confetti tricolor. This is also just kind of sitting here because I need to figure out where I want to put it and where I want this plant to live. But this newest leaf is looking really, really cute. I don't know how well you can see that, but it has like mainly pink instead of like the pink and the green variegation. And it looks really cute. It's like a smattering of pink. This is my Hoya latifolia albomarginata, formerly known as Hoya macrophylla albomarginata. And this plant, holy moly you guys, it gives me such really big leaves that are so gorgeous. So like look at that leaf, look at that leaf. Oh my gosh. And they're just really beautiful, good looking leaves. This leaf sadly was a casualty. It got knocked down by a friend while it was emerging, so that was kind of a bummer. But in general though, like it's just grown really well for me and I'm excited to watch it as it continues to fill out. Here is a Spathiphyllum domino, so like a peace lily domino or whatever you want to call it. It has a lot of like bad looking leaves that I need to trim away, but it also has like an equal number of new leaves that are coming out. So I really hope that that means it will continue to flourish and grow for me. I did put this outside over the summer in the hopes that it would really be a vigorous grower. That didn't really happen. I should probably prune these leaves with scissors instead of with my fingernails, but See, that looks so much better. And then over here, these are just 2 more little mini terrariums with moss and selaginella. So nothing too crazy. We just have 1 plant living over here. This is my Peperonia reticulata, or red log peperonia. This needs to be watered really badly. This is definitely not my favorite plant, but I found that displaying it in this way on top of the stack of books is cute enough that I'm willing to tolerate it for a little bit longer. You're not gonna be able to see that really well, but just in that ugly corner, I have another plant. This is just my pearls and jade pothos up there. That's not the most aesthetically pleasing shot ever, but like, that's where that is. In my little coffee corner is my philodendron Mia. This plant is nothing really special. I've said it time and time again on my channel. I don't like it that much. Like, I like it enough to have it, but in my eyes, it's more like a little pop of green, but it's not like a plant that I'm super overly attached to, you know? But like, it's a good plant. All right, we're venturing into my not cute basement because this is where my plants are overwintering. So yeah, just right here. This is a little bit of a closet of a bathroom. This is another just prickly pear cactus, or opuntia. This right here is a cuddly cactus. And yeah, I think that they're pretty cute. I don't really know what else to say about them. They've been outside all summer. They grew a little bit. This gal is looking really, really particularly thick and chunky. This cuddly cactus does not really have spines, and it looks just very cute. It's a cute cactus. I think these guys can be found in most big box stores, but yeah. And that was just about my entire houseplant collection, with the exception of like a few propagations and stuff like that. But that took a long time, so if you watched that entire video, thank you so much. You're a real one. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. All those things are super helpful for my channel. So yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye-bye!